Hello witches, welcome back. You are seeing me look exactly the same as you did last week. Yes, because I filmed these back to back. So last week we talked about books for spring, specifically rebirth and renewal energy. And this week we are talking books for Beltane. Obviously any of those spring books are still going to be great for the Beltane season. But I did want to highlight some specifically that go along with that fire energy that Beltane has, that fertility energy. So you can enjoy that and carry it into the month of May. If you would like more information about Beltane, history of Beltane, specific things, that is on the podcast. There have been a few Beltane episodes, and there is a ton of information on Patreon as well. I do ebooks and spells, rituals, all kinds of like Beltane related information and Beltane specific posts. Those are up on Patreon. So if you want more specifics to the holiday, but today we're going to go over like recommendations of books for like the energy of the season. Let's start with the fiction reads, because I definitely took some liberties here and just went with the energy of the season. So first up, I am recommending Fireborne, the trilogy. If you would like a YA, less smutty version of Fourth Ring, definitely Fireborne is great, and it's literal dragon fire energy. They are dragon riders. They're in dragon rider school to ride dragons into battle in their army. Lots of great dragon content, lots of fiery, hot-headed characters, lots of politics. So great read if you want to be very literal about that fire energy for Beltane. Also very literal, Red Rising, the whole series by Pierce Brown. There was the original trilogy, and now there is, I think 10 years or so in the future, the next set of books. I think there's 4, maybe 5th one is coming out, something like that. But you could definitely like read the original 3. Starts with literal fire energy because we are following the character of Darrow, who is working on Mars as a driller. They think that they are colonizing the planet of Mars for people to come live on. And he is what's called a red, hence the Red Rising, because they are red. The people in this fantasy realm are split up into tiers based on their skin color, and he is red for living and working on Mars, and so he is at the bottom, and at the very top are golds. Of course, he quickly finds out that not all is as it seems, and so he is tasked to infiltrate the golds, and it goes through a very painful procedure to make him gold and overthrow the government and the entire solar system from the inside. So again, a very literal definition of fire energy. I also want to recommend the Legendborn series for this time of year. This is where we are following a set of characters in modern times at a college over on the East Coast, and they are descendants of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Beltane, of course, being a Celtic holiday that has a lot to do with fairies, and Morgana, who is thought to be the sibling of King Arthur and revered as a witch. So this is much more on the folklore side of things, and you get a lot of that great Celtic and English background of folklore and mythology in a fun modern day setting. I loved the first 2, and the third one, Oathbound, is on my to be read list. It's currently on hold at the library, but obviously everybody else wants to read it too, and it just came out recently. So still waiting on that one, but I can definitely recommend the first 2. Let's talk then about the other side of Beltane energy, which is fertility magic, weddings. There's a lot of hand fastings and things that go on. So you want some fertility magic fiction reads, definitely go with Katee Robert. You're still getting a ton of mythology, Greek this time. But if you want the smutty fiction reads that has that mythology aspect in there, Katee Robert is the way to go. There are a ton of options there. And for a oldie but goodie, absolute YA popcorn read, then the selection is going to be for you. You have to read it keeping in mind that it is absolutely cheesy Hallmark movie. And it's basically like an alternate or America in the future where we have King instead, and it's basically The Bachelor. It is YA, so it's not smutty, but you get that marriage handfasting energy in there. So if you want a quick popcorn read and you have not already read that, because that is a few years old, it is a YA classic. Moving into specific witchcraft books that I would recommend for Beltane, for that fire, fertility, fairy, magic energy that is going on. I think one of the great options for green witches would be The Sacred Herbs of Spring by Ellen Evert Hopman. And you can see right here, I've got the Sacred Herbs for Yule and Christmas. I have read the spring one as well, and it has just a ton of great information about the spring holidays, like including Beltane, and the ways to bring those herbs into your practice. More than just gardening or making them into a tea, it really gives you like the lore, folklore, and things behind there. And I think in particular, Beltane is highlighted really well in this book. As far as the fairy energy, I think one of the best resources on this is Fairies by Morgan Daimler. There are a ton of great fairy books out there, but I think this is one that has been around for a while, has a lot of great information in it. So people who regularly practice fairy magic would also recommend this one. It's just one of those classics. There are, of course, a ton of fae fiction books that you can read for this season. That is like the popular thing now and in like the last couple of years. So you can absolutely have like a ton of fae magic and things in your reading, but if you want the specific lore and history and things of Celtic fairies in particular, I think this would be a best option. If we want to talk fire energy, fertility magic, then one that you have heard from on the podcast before is Blood, Sex, Magic by Brie Luna. There aren't a ton of witchcraft books that dive deeply into sex and fertility magic. As you can imagine, it's not super popular for publishers. They think that they won't sell. So there's not that many, but I think that Brie's book has a lot of great information about the importance of that and like including sex and fertility in your witchcraft practice. And her entire book, like you could just tell, you know, by the cover and the images inside, her entire book reflects her fiery personality. So there is a lot of fire element and it just comes across in the pages as well. So I think if you want to dip your toes into sex magic and your own sensuality in your magical practice, this would be a great place to start. Another that covers the entire wheel of the year that I mentioned last week. There are some books that will have the entire wheel and all of the different holidays, but they will just pull out a specific one that is best highlighted in that work. And so one that I wanted to mention is Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden. This has the entire wheel, and then it is specifically at the end about making the wheel your own. And that's why I wanted to pull it out for Beltane and this season in particular, because the wheel of the year with the 8 holidays as it stands that that I think Wicca pulled them together as like the 8. But the way that it stands doesn't always resonate with a lot of people because it is based on the agricultural cycle of Western Europe, and that's just not what a lot of people experience and really don't know the agricultural cycle at all. So when the holidays are really centered around that and centered around planting and harvesting, in our modern age, we don't always connect with that. And so Temperance is talking about making the wheel your own and putting your own holidays and your big things in that your life sort of revolves around. So your kids might be a big example. Your life in March is going to look very different from your life in June because your kids are out of school. So that's sort of the cycle and things that she is talking about making the wheel your own. And, January 1st doesn't have to be your new year. If nothing really changes for you from December 20th to January 5th, if your life kind of looks the same, then maybe January 1st isn't your new year. Maybe you feel a fresh start in September when the kids go back to school. It's really about making the wheel your own and putting your own personal dates on there. Birthdays or death anniversaries could be big dates for you that you would want to center things around. For us, not even Samhain, it's Halloween. Halloween is a big deal for us, and that it sort of cycles my year around that and like getting decorated. That's sort of like the switch into the fall season for me. So I specifically wanted to pull this out because sometimes these spring ones like Ostara and Beltane do not always resonate with people with the timing of like how it lines up. May Day is still a holiday like in Great Britain, but it's not here in America. So a lot of people do not understand or celebrate May Day like on that specific time, or understand Beltane as being May 1st, like what's the difference between May 1st and, you know, April 27th. It may just kind of be the same for you, in which case you do not need to celebrate Beltane on May 1st, because we have the 4 holidays that are on a solstice or an equinox. So that makes more sense because they're determined by what's going on in the universe and our planet. Whereas May 1st might seem just like an arbitrary date for you, and the weather where you're at might not line up with what you think of or what people explain Beltane to be, in which case you make it your own and you live with your own cycle. So if you find that you don't really resonate with Beltane, then this might be a great option to figure out how to intuitively make your own year and set up your own cycles. Next up is Modern Witch by Devin Hunter. And I know that the cover looks very fiery and you think that's why I pulled it out specifically for Beltane and fire magic, but no, there's a chapter in here that is dedicated to love magic. And I think it's one of the best resources if you're interested in that, because it has so much information for self-love, a love charm bag, reconciliation, incense, oils, just a ton of great information on love magic. I mean, I also love the other chapters too. Like you can see, like I've tabbed it a ton, like protection magic and everything. But I think the way that this book is set up, that specifically the love magic information is really great in this one. And final recommendation is a relatively new one. This is The Old Ways by Joanna Vanderhoeven. And this is a follow-up to The Path of the Hedge Witch, but you don't have to have read that in order to read this one. And I say new because I think this just came out in the last month or two. This is The Hedge Witch Guide to Living a Magical Life. And this I wanted to pull out specifically for Beltane, because Beltane is one of those liminal times, same as Samhain, where it is considered that the veil is thinner, meaning that our plane, our earthly plane, is closer to that of the spiritual realm, the afterlife, the gods, whatever your belief system is, that it's easier to traverse those at this time, same as it is with Samhain. Beltane is specifically called out for fairies, and being more likely to interact with fairies at this time, but it is across the board considered a liminal time and space. So hedge witchcraft is riding that line of liminal space and traversing the spirit world. So specifically on the back, it says, Joanna deepens your skills in herbalism, spellcraft, hedge riding, trance work, and more so you can truly live your magic. Following Joanna's guidance, you can develop a daily practice that involves connection to nature, deity, the fair folk, and your familiar. So that is all that spiritual contact, fae contact, and again, has rituals for each Sabbath, and I think Beltane is pulled out particularly well. So this being the ideal time for contact would just heighten everything in this book if you are interested in reaching out to find a familiar, to work with the fae, to find a patron deity or spirit guide. This would be perfect for walking you through those things. And that is everything that I have to recommend for this video for books for Beltane. So do let me know down in the comments what you have been reading, what you're going to read for the Beltane holiday or Beltane season. And if you are particularly pulling out fire energy, fairy magic, working with spirits, or if you will be on the love fertility side of things. If you just want to let me know that you are here hanging out, I appreciate it, and leave me a fire emoji down below. That is everything that I have for this video. I will see you next week to recap all of my April reads.